Thank you to our dignitaries. Let us welcome them with a huge round of applause, and I would now request all of you to kindly stand up for the national anthem.
जन गण मन अधिनायक जय हे भारत भाग्य विधाता पंजाब सिंध गुजरात मराठा द्राविड उत्कल गंगा विंध्य हिमाचल यमुना गंगा उज्जल जलधि तरंगा तव शुभ नामे जागे तव शुभ आशीष मांगे गाहे तव जय गाथा जन गण मंगलदायक जय हे भारत भाग्य विधाता जय हे जय हे जय हे जय 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 हे
Thank you, everyone. Kindly be seated. I would now like to invite the President of the Delhi High Court Bar Association, Mr. Hariharan, to kindly present a plant to our chief guest, the Honorable Speaker of the Lok Sabha, Shri Om Birla, and to formally welcome him for today's program. Thank you, sir. I would now like to invite President, Supreme Court Bar Association, Mr. Vikas Singh, to kindly present a plant to our guest of honor, the Chief Justice of India, Honorable Mr. Justice B.R. Gavai, as a mark of our appreciation and gratitude. Thank you, everyone. Good evening, everyone. I'm Shireen Moti, Associate Professor of Law and Associate Dean at O.P. Jindal Global University. Thank you for joining us for the 11th Dr. L.M. Singhvi Memorial Lecture on the theme of Human Dignity as the Soul of the Constitution, Judicial Reflections in the 21st Century. Without further ado, I would now like to invite the founding Vice Chancellor of O.P. Jindal Global University, Professor Dr. C. Rajkumar, to kindly come forward to deliver the welcome address.
The Constitution is not a mere lawyer's document. It is a vehicle of life, and its spirit is always the spirit of age. The core of constitutional morality is respect for human dignity. These are the prophetic words of Dr. B.R. Ambedkar, and I would like to begin this evening by recalling these words. Respected Chief Guest, Honorable Shri Om Birla Ji, Speaker of the Lok Sabha, our guest of honor and keynote speaker, Honorable Chief Justice of India, Justice B.R. Gavai, Dr. Abhishek Manu Singhvi, Senior Advocate, Supreme Court of India, and indeed the co-host of this evening, distinguished dignitaries, judges of the Supreme Court of India, judges of the High Courts, as well as distinguished lawyers, members of the legal community, judicial fraternity, academics, members of civil society, media, and my beloved Chancellor and benefactor of O.P. Jindal Global University, Naveen Jindal, esteemed colleagues, members of the fraternity of well-wishers of Dr. L.M. Singhvi, friends, ladies and gentlemen. It is my singular honor to welcome you all to the 11th Dr. L.M. Singhvi Memorial Lecture, a solemn yet celebratory occasion that binds us together in memory, reflection, and inspiration. There are moments in public life when remembrance becomes renewal. This memorial lecture is not merely an event. It is an invocation of ideals. As Dr. L.M. Singhvi reminded us, I quote, democracy is not just a system of governance, it is a culture of the human spirit, unquote. Today, as we gather to deliberate upon the theme, human dignity as the soul of the Constitution, judicial reforms in the 21st century, we reaffirm that the Constitution lives most fully not in its text, but in the dignity it confers upon every citizen. We are truly privileged this evening, Sri Om Birla ji, as Speaker of the Lok Sabha. Your stewardship enriches our democratic discourse. Your presence anchors debate in civility and principle. Honorable Chief Justice of India, Justice B.R. Gavai, your gracious acceptance to deliver tonight's lecture brings profound judicial insight and dignity to our gathering. I particularly want to recognize the presence of the Honorable and Learned Attorney General for India, Dr. R. Venkataramani, the distinguished Solicitor General of India, Shri Mr. Tushar Mehta, and all other law officers who have taken the time out to be present with us on this occasion. I also want to particularly recognize the fact that today we are also paying tribute to the Constitution. Shri Naveen Jindal had conceived the idea of building a world-class university here in Sonipat, Haryana, and along with it, last year, he also conceived the idea of building India's first Constitution Museum and the Rights and Freedoms Academy, inaugurated by the presence of the Honorable Speaker of the Lok Sabha, Shri Om Birla ji, Union Law Minister, Shri Arjun Megwal ji, as well as 8 distinguished judges of the Supreme Court of India to mark the 75th anniversary of the adoption of the Constitution. We gather today in memory of Dr. Lakshmi Mal Singhvi, a thinker, diplomat, jurist, parliamentarian, interfaith exponent, cultural custodian, and visionary. He embodied moral courage, intellectual depth, and civilizational grace. This evening, I would like to reflect more fully on the 5 facets of his legacy, each profound in its reach and enduring in its impact. First, Dr. L.M. Singhvi as a scholar-statesman. Dr. Singhvi's blend of brilliance and humility set him apart. A gold medalist from Allahabad University, an LLM from Harvard Law School, an LLD from Cornell University, he was Rajasthan's first Rotary scholar overseas. His legal prowess made him a senior advocate at the Supreme Court and later an Advocate General of Rajasthan. Yet, beyond accolades, he wielded learning with modesty, infusing parliamentary and courtroom discourse with moral clarity and intellectual rigor. Dr. L.M. Singhvi as India's voice to the world. As India's High Commissioner to the United Kingdom from 1991 to 1997, the longest-serving diplomat in the UK, Dr. Singhvi articulated Indian values on the world stage with grace and substance. He steered cultural diplomacy, relayed moral perspectives at global forums, and deepened Indo-British ties. His efforts included delivering the prestigious Reed Lecture at the University of Cambridge and bolstering India's presence at institutions such as the Permanent Court of Arbitration. Third, Dr. L.M. Singhvi as the architect of interfaith harmony. In an era marked by all kinds of divisions around the world, Dr. Singhvi championed unity. He defined tolerance, and I quote, a state of mind, a set of norms, and a pattern of behavior, another name for human understanding, unquote. Whether through building the Nehru Center in London or organizing interfaith dialogues, he fostered bonds that transcended dogma. Fourth, Dr. L.M. Singhvi as a custodian of culture and civilization. A lover of literature and heritage, Dr. Singhvi was a prolific author and a cultural advocate. He served as the president of Indira Gandhi National Center for the Arts and was instrumental in literary and artistic preservation. He penned works such as A Tale of Three Cities, Democracy and Rule of Law, and the Jain temples in India and around the world, blending narrative with reflection and a scholarship with soul. 5, Dr. L.M. Singhvi as champion of human rights and dignity. Dr. Singhvi's belief in law as a moral force defined his public life. He influenced legal reforms, advocated for the creation of Lokpal and Lok Ayukta, and helped shape India's National Human Rights Commission. His writings and speeches reminded us law must be anchored in justice, rights in righteousness. Together, these 5 dimensions reveal a truth. Dr. L.M. Singhvi was not merely distinguished, he was a moral compass, a constitutional visionary, and a cultural ambassador whose legacy continues to guide and uplift. On behalf of all present, I would like to extend my profound thanks and appreciation to Dr. Abhishek Manu Singhvi for endowing and benefacting this lecture series at O.P. Jindal Global University. Through his devotion and generosity, his father's legacy continues to inspire and transform future generations of jurists, academicians, and citizens. Friends, as we light the lamp this evening, let it be more than tradition. Let it be a beacon of remembrance and renewal, a reminder that justice, culture, and law are intertwined, luminous threads of our shared humanity. Let me now close with another timeless insight from Dr. B.R. Ambedkar from his Grammar of Anarchy speech delivered on 25th November 1949. Quote, "If we wish to maintain democracy, not merely in form, but also in fact, we must hold fast to constitutional methods. It means we must abandon the bloody methods of revolution. These methods are nothing but the grammar of anarchy, and the sooner they are abandoned, the better for us," unquote. In these words lies our guiding compass, affirming that dignity and progress are born not of upheaval, but of faith in institutions, non-violence, and constitutional strength. As a law professor, I am typically used to writing prose, but there are very rare moments in life I end up writing poetry, and I have written a short poetry on this occasion. And it goes, "In memory's gentle blow, his spirit still endures. Dr. Singhvi's noble truth our purpose reassures. His son walks in that grace with honor deeply hued. Dr. Abhishek Manu Singhvi, vision renewed. To Sri Om Birla, whose presence steadies democratic ground, your voice a beacon of dialogue, our consensus is found. To the Chief Justice of India, whose wisdom graced this night, your gracious words, I believe, will lend depth and guiding light. And to you, our cherished audience, your hearts enrich this space. With profound gratitude, we thank each face. May Dr. Singhvi's legacy guide our thoughts and deeds. May dignity and justice fulfill our truest needs. Thank you. May our shared commitment shine in unity and hope for our republic for all time. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir, for setting the tone for today's program and also introducing us to the life and times of Dr. L.M. Singhvi. On that note, I would now like to invite Senior Advocate, Supreme Court of India and Member of Parliament, Rajya Sabha, Dr. Abhishek Manu Singhvi, to kindly come forward to introduce our chief guest and guest of honor for today. Welcome, sir.
Honorable Speaker, Lok Sabha, Honorable Chief Justice of India, Honorable Judges of the Supreme Court, Honorable Judges of the Delhi High Court, Honorable former Judges of the Supreme Court and former Judges of the Delhi High Court, former Union Minister, Attorney General for India, Solicitor General of India, Members of Parliament, Excellencies, Ambassadors and High Commissioners, Chancellor and Vice Chancellor of Jindal University, Captains of Industry, leaders of political parties, distinguished members of the bar, especially the senior colleagues, members from academia, media, friends, ladies and gentlemen. I am truly overwhelmed by the love, affection, and commitment shown by this truly distinguished and august gathering, present in such large numbers on a weekday. For me, this occasion is not merely ceremonial. It is an act of memory and meaning, a bridge between generations, a way to keep alive the ideas and ideals of a man who, for me, was not merely a father, but a teacher and a source of inspiration, while being an incredibly multifaceted personality as a jurist, parliamentarian, diplomat, interfaith savant, poet, academic, and a true Renaissance personality. Every year or two, when we congregate for this lecture, delivered earlier by several Chief Justices, Supreme Court judges, philosophers, a former President of India, top diplomats, and so on, we celebrate the civilizational wisdom of India and of its founding fathers, of the values which see law as justice, democracy as dialogue, and dignity as destiny. Both the Honorable Speaker and I share the desert dust of Rajasthan, a land that teaches patience in drought, resilience in adversity, and dignity in simplicity. No wonder bringing dignity to the Speaker's chair comes so naturally to Shri Birla. If the judiciary is the temple of dignity, then Parliament is its theatre. And in that theatre, the Speaker is the director who ensures that even discord retains decorum. Shri Birla perennially tries to ensure that dignity, both in silence and in disciplined speech. It is not easy in times when debates threaten to become duels, but Shri Birla tries to remind us that dignity in democracy means letting voices clash without letting values collapse. Shri Birla is an institutional custodian who guards the dignity of the lower house of Parliament with the endurance of the desert from which he comes and the grace of a peacock. It is not easy to use the gavel, not as a weapon, but as a compass. After all, the true dignity of Parliament is not in its walls or traditions, but in ensuring that every voice, whether thunderous or trembling, finds a hearing. दोस्तों, कोटा में कहीं भी जाएं, तो स्पीकर साहब के मात्र उपस्थिति से ही लोगों को हलचल मच जाती है। ऐसा इसलिए है क्योंकि वास्तव में जनता के ये आदमी हैं और कोटा स्थित अपने घर के माहौल में सबसे ज़्यादा सहज महसूस करते हैं। यहाँ कोई भी उनसे कहीं भी, कहीं से भी, कभी भी मिल सकता है। इसलिए उन्हें उस विशाल लोकसभा के प्रोटोकॉलबद्ध माहौल या दिल्ली में स्थित उनका आलीशान सरकारी आवास अटपटा सा लगता है। अपने काफ़ी वरिष्ठ प्रतिद्वंदियों पर लगातार विधानसभा और लोकसभा में जीत के लिए बिरला जी को जायंट किलर, महानायक कहा जाता है। आपने स्कूली दिनों से ही एक सक्रिय छात्र संघ नेता रहे हैं। उनकी असली विशेषता, और बिना किसी मीडिया प्रचार के, यह है कि सभी सामाजिक कल्याण परियोजनाओं में उनकी निरंतर प्रतिबद्धता और अथक परिश्रम रहा है। 1999 में कारगिल युद्ध से संबंधित राहत कार्य, 2001 के गुजरात का भूकंप, 2004 की सुनामी, 2013 का केदारनाथ की त्रासदी और ऐसे कई अन्य सेवा कार्यों में श्री बिरला ने संसाधन जुटाने और पुनर्वास कार्यों को आगे बढ़ाने में व्यक्तिगत खुद ने महत्वपूर्ण भूमिका निभाई है। अग्रणीय पंक्ति में खड़े हुए हैं हमेशा। वरिष्ठता सूची में ये चौथे स्थान पे आते हैं, स्पीकर के स्थान में। लेकिन इन्होंने किपलिंग के इस कथन को चरितार्थ किया है। किपलिंग ने कहा था, वॉक विथ किंग्स नॉर लूज द कॉमन टच। I first appeared before the same young-looking then Justice Gavai decades ago at Nagpur. Something he never lets me forget, since I had to scramble in a charter plane to reach Nagpur. And that information apparently travels fast in Nagpur. Since those 2 decades up to date, what has stood out for me is firstly his light touch, an easy manner of getting to the heart of the matter, coupled with complete lack of pomposity and a fantastic dose of pragmatism. Secondly, he has eschewed as far as possible the Operation Successful Patient Dies syndrome, or the model of many judgments, which automatically lead to minimum sermonizing and maximum decisiveness in his judgments. Thirdly, for a man to have come from such a distinguished political lineage, spreading over the several decades of his father's distinguished public service, and yet to have retained the faith of diverse classes and political dispensations in his own distinguished judicial career, is, I think, a remarkable tribute to his objectivity, fairness, independence, and farsightedness. I have personally experienced this in several extremely politically sensitive cases, which I don't have the time to recount, where Justice Gavai has neither flinched nor avoided, but has used his light touch, his pragmatism, to preclude the slightest whisper of dissatisfaction from any quarter. This, friends, is no easy achievement, especially in the troubled times we live in. Fourthly, Chief Justice Gavai is a man whose life journey revives faith in Indian democracy. And in particular, it revives faith in the thought processes and unending exertions of the man in whose memory this building where we are now sitting was consecrated, Dr. B.R. Ambedkar. For someone actually experiencing daily deprivation of resources and creature comforts, for someone who cooked bhakris and drew water, for someone who sat on the floor in municipal classrooms with no chairs, no desks, except his own dreams, Chief Justice Gavai exemplifies what dogged determination, enduring hard work, and luckily, of course, not following his father's advice, or rather following his father's advice of not joining politics, can achieve. In that sense, no PhD, no classroom, no lecture, and no sermon can educate, enthuse, excite, or energize the youth of this country, and especially young lawyers, than the almost unbelievable trajectory of the life of Chief Justice Gavai. Friends, the man in whose memory we meet today was truly multifaceted. From drafting the Law Day Charter impromptu by hand in my presence, to inventing the Hindi words Lokpal and Lokayukt in 1962 in Lok Sabha after a chance remark by Pandit Nehru, my father, Dr. L.M. Singhvi's versatility never ceased to amaze me. He could converse in chaste Sanskrit, compose a very good Hindi poem while listening to his opponent arguing, and yet be ready for the rejoinder. He could be a UN special rapporteur to produce the definitive report on judicial independence decades ago, and leave a very flourishing law practice to become India's longest serving High Commissioner to UK after Krishna Menon. His term incidentally spanned 3 British Prime Ministers and 5 Indian Prime Ministers. He wrote the Diaspora Report and inaugurated the entire diaspora movement after he and then Prime Minister Vajpayee discussed his idea. And he was equally the author of the Panchayati Raj report, which led to the insertion of Part 9 in our Constitution by the 73rd Amendment in 1992 at the instance of Rajiv Gandhi. There is much more in his life history which I have no time to speak about. But above all, dignity for him was not merely a constitutional ideal, but a lived practice. Few could embody, exhibit, breathe, and live it more in political, legal, public, social, or cultural life than him. So, friends, as we now turn to the lecture, we must remember the Constitution as the Grundnorm, as the Germans used to call it, the supreme law and the sacred text of our democracy. But friends, even sacred texts require a spirit, not merely a structure. The Constitution is not a stone monument. It is a living organism. And the life force that animates it, the pulse that keeps it beating, is dignity. Dignity is what transforms a constitution from a legal contract into a moral covenant. Without dignity, liberty becomes license, equality becomes mere arithmetic, and fraternity becomes rhetoric. With dignity, each of these provisions become real, become human, and become humane. The Indian judiciary, to its great credit, has not treated dignity as a mere poetic flourish. It has treated it as a constitutional compass. One out of many examples is the evolution of Article 21. From a narrow protection of life and personal liberty, it has blossomed into a fountainhead of rights. to livelihood, to health, to education, to a clean environment, to privacy, to reproductive autonomy. What ties all these expansions together? The recognition that life without dignity is no life at all. Think of the Keshwananda Bharati judgment, where the doctrine of the basic structure was born. At its core, it was about dignity, the dignity of the Constitution against mutilation, the dignity of citizens against authoritarianism. Think of Puttaswamy, where the right to privacy was affirmed not as a luxury, but as the very essence of dignity in the digital age. Think of Navtesh Johar, where the court, while decriminalizing same-sex relations, affirmed that love, identity, and intimacy cannot be demeaned by majoritarian prejudice. In each one of these examples, dignity was not an afterthought. It was the soul of the process. But let me emphasize, as I conclude, dignity is not the monopoly of the judiciary. It is in fact the responsibility of all institutions, indeed of society itself. The legislature is supposed to honor dignity when it enacts laws that empower the marginalized, protect the vulnerable, and equalize opportunity. The executive honors dignity when governance is transparent, fair, and responsive to the last person. Civil society honors dignity when it resists bigotry and builds bridges of understanding. And let me dare say, we honor dignity even in the way in which we conduct public discourse. In an age of angry noise, dignity is in listening as much as in speaking, in respecting disagreement as much as in asserting belief. That is why, friends, it is such a joy and honor to have with us two remarkable constitutional functionaries this evening. Honorable Chief Justice Gavai, whose life itself symbolizes the triumph of dignity over adversity, and whose judgments have consistently shown fidelity to constitutional morality. Honorable Speaker Om Birla, who embodies the dignity of parliamentary procedure, ensuring that amidst the tumult and the contestation, the House remains the forum where the people's voice speaks. May I now, therefore, invite the Honorable Chief Justice of India, Honorable Mr. Justice Bhushan R. Gavai, to deliver the 11th Dr. L.M. Singhvi Memorial Lecture on the theme, Human Dignity as the Soul of the Constitution, Judicial Reflections in the 21st Century.
Honorable Shri Om Birla ji, the Speaker of the Lok Sabha, my colleagues from the Supreme Court of India, my former sisters and brothers from the Supreme Court, Honorable Shri D.K. Upadhyay, the Chief Justice of Delhi High Court, the various former Chief Justices present here, the judges of Delhi High Court as well as the former judges from various High Courts, Dr. Abhishek Singhvi, the Member of Parliament and Senior Advocate, Shri Venkatramani, the Learned Attorney General for India, Shri Tushar Mehta, the Learned Solicitor General of India, the Members of Parliament present here in large number who also double as, many of whom also double as lawyers in the Supreme Court. Today we have a dialogue in the afternoon on that. I don't want to speak much on that. The Shri Vikas Singh, the President of the Supreme Court Bar Association, Shri Hariharan, the President of the Delhi High Court Bar Association, Their Excellencies, the Ambassadors and High Commissioners of the various countries, Shri Naveen Jindal, the Chancellor of the University, Professor C. Rajkumar, the Dynamic Vice Chancellor of the O.P. Jindal Global University, Ms. Shireen Moti, Shri Avishkar Singhvi, and the other members of the Singhvi family present here, various designated as well as non-designated senior advocates, the members of the bar, the students from the university, and the distinguished audience. At the outset, I would like to thank the organizers for giving me an opportunity to deliver today's lecture, the 11th Dr. L.M. Singhvi Memorial Lecture. It is particularly an honor for me to speak today, though I did not have an opportunity to meet Dr. L.M. Singhvi personally, but I knew him through his work and particularly through my father. My father shared the membership of Rajya Sabha almost during the same time when Dr. L.M. Singhvi and Mr. Falli Nariman, the scholars from the legal fraternity, were also the members of the Rajya Sabha. And my father had a close relationship with both of them since his son was associated with the legal profession. And they used to have discussions on the legal issues, and my father used to always tell me about the rich experience that he got through his discussions with both Dr. Singhvi and Mr. Falli Nariman. Their overlapping tenures allowed them to collaborate closely and exchange ideas, and learning about their work and camaraderie has given me a sense of personal connection to Dr. Singhvi's distinguished legacy. Professor Rajkumar has already spoken about the contributions of Dr. L.M. Singhvi, but in view of the breadth and depth of his work, I would like to take a moment to highlight a few more of his remarkable contributions. Born in Jodhpur, Rajasthan, Dr. L.M. Singhvi was a scholar statesman, a prolific author, an eminent jurist, a distinguished diplomat, and a prominent parliamentarian. In various roles, Dr. Singhvi made seminal contributions to law, governance, and public policy at both national as well as international levels. He was the second longest serving Indian High Commissioner to the UK after Mr. Krishna Menon, as Dr. Singhvi has already told us. He was the principal architect of Pravasi Bharatiya Divas, an initiative conceived to promote sustained engagement with the Indian diaspora and to strengthen cultural, social, and economic ties with non-resident Indians. Equally influential was his role as chair of the Committee of Panchayat Raj Institutions, where he recommended the constitutional recognition of local self-governance through Panchayat Raj. These recommendations laid the groundwork for eventual constitutional status conferred upon Panchayat Raj institutions, thereby deepening India's democratic framework at the grassroots level. Dr. Singhvi also was a distinguished member of the bar who mastered the advocacy, politics, diplomacy, and statesmanship equally well. Dr. Singhvi was elected as the president of the Supreme Court Bar Association on more than one occasion, and he was the founder president of the Supreme Court Bar Association Trust. I must also mention that at the time of his tenure as the High Commissioner of India in the UK in 1996, Dr. Singhvi graciously presented a sculpted statue of Mahatma Gandhi to the Supreme Court, which now stands prominently just in front of the staircase outside the Chief Justice's court. Over time, this statue has assumed a distinctive place within the architectural and symbolic landscape of the court, serving as a constant reminder and guiding emblem of truth, justice, and moral integrity. This memorial lecture is a tribute to him, and on behalf of all of us, I pay my tribute and homage to his distinguished career. It is equally important to recognize the efforts of Dr. Abhishek Singhvi in continuing and building upon his father's remarkable legacy. Through his sustained commitment to education and public service, Dr. Abhishek Singhvi has initiated programs that directly benefit students and society at large. One such notable initiative is the Singhvi Trinity Scholarship, established in memory of his late father. This scholarship provides financial support to a deserving Indian student to pursue an LLM at the University of Cambridge, offering not just world-class education, but also exposure to a truly international academic environment. By facilitating this opportunity, the scholarship embodies the vision of fostering excellence, broadening horizons, and nurturing future leaders who can contribute meaningfully to law, governance, and public life in India. Similarly, this lecture series stands as a testament to the enduring intellectual and moral legacy of Dr. L.M. Singhvi. By bringing together scholars, practitioners, and students, the series seeks to perpetuate his spirit of rigorous inquiry, public engagement, and commitment to the value of justice and constitutionalism. Each lecture serves not only as an academic exercise, but also as a platform to inspire critical thinking, dialogue, and reflection. I must also thank Dr. Singhvi for the good words he has spoken about me. I was not expecting them because every day he's at a receiving end in my court. And many a times I remind him about his visit to Nagpur in 2009 or 10. Because that time, nowadays the charter flights are very common, but a lawyer traveling all the way from Nagpur to Nagpur from Delhi, and the chartered flight was something, and as he said, Nagpur is a small city. And then not only that, we wanted to continue the matter on next day, but he had something urgent at Delhi. So he flew back, and then the next day again he came back after a day. He talked about my rise from a semi-science school to the place where I am today. It's all due to the Indian Constitution and Dr. Ambedkar's vision that I could hold this august office and get an opportunity to serve the nation and the society. We have also talked about I am not having a doctorate or PhD, though I was offered about 12 deletes by various institutions. I have refused them that I will not accept anything till 24th of November, 2025. The theme of today's lecture is Humanity, Dignity as the Soul of the Constitution, Judicial Reflections in the 21st Century. This theme invites us to engage with one of the most enduring principles of constitutional law, human dignity. In simple terms, dignity or human dignity refers to the intrinsic worth and respect owed to every human being simply by virtue of a human being. In the context of 21st century, this principle has acquired a new significance as courts across the world, and particularly in India, grapple with complex questions arising from technological change, social transformation, and evolving notions of equality and liberty. Today, my endeavor is to explore how the judiciary has interpreted the concept of human dignity in diverse contexts, from the protection of individual autonomy and privacy to the advancement of social justice and redressal of structural inequalities. By examining contemporary judicial reflections, we aim to understand how the commitment to human dignity continues to shape the values of constitutionalism and the contours of law, governance, and public life in modern India. But the discourse on human dignity in 21st century cannot be meaningfully undertaken without first understanding the foundational principles laid down in the decades preceding it. Human dignity was a central concern for the framers of the Constitution, deeply intertwined with their vision of a just and egalitarian society. As Dr. B.R. Ambedkar once stated that the social oppression of the so-called untouchables heaped upon them, and I quote, many indignities which are incompatible with the dignity and sanctity of human life, unquote. It is precisely these indignities of various kinds, that is social, economic, and political, that the Constitution was designed to remedy. As Dr. Ambedkar always used to say, that the Constitution is a weapon for bloodless social revolution. The text of the Constitution explicitly situates dignity alongside the core values of liberty, equality, fraternity, and justice. Signaling its centrality to the Indian constitutional project, the preamble enshrines this principle in clear terms and to provide amongst them all fraternity, assuring the dignity of the individual and the unity and integrity of the nation. As reflected in the preamble, this linkage between dignity and the values of fraternity, unity, and integrity of the nation is significant, as it underscores the idea that respect for each individual is not merely a personal or social value, but a foundational principle for the cohesion of society itself. When the dignity of every citizen is recognized and protected, it promotes a sense of belonging, mutual respect, and solidarity, which are essential for maintaining national unity and harmony. By anchoring dignity in these interrelated values, the Constitution envisioned a society where every individual, regardless of caste, class, or background, could live a life of respect. Furthermore, the phrase, assuring the dignity of the individual, is a direct commitment that every individual has inherent worth. It is particularly noteworthy that Dr. Ambedkar defined fraternity not merely as a social ideal, but as an intrinsic feature of democracy itself. He described fraternity as only another name for democracy, emphasizing that democracy is primarily a mode of associated living, of conjoint communicated experience, and that it requires essentially an attitude of respect and reverence toward fellow men. From this perspective, dignity or human dignity emerges as the core value of democracy, central to the very functioning of the democratic society. Although the term dignity does not find an explicit textual mention in Part 3 of the Constitution, which enumerates the fundamental rights, the judiciary has, through consistent interpretation, recognized it as a foundational principle underlying these rights. Reflections of human dignity are evident across multiple dimensions of the fundamental rights. The prohibition of arbitrariness under Article 14 ensures that state actions respect reason, fairness, and equality, thereby safeguarding the individual's sense of self-worth. Similarly, the rights against discrimination under Article 14 and 15 and the guarantee of equality of opportunity under Article 16 seek to affirm the inherent dignity of every person by preventing unequal treatment based on caste, religion, gender, or other personal attributes. Dignity also underlines the freedoms enshrined in Article 19, which protect individuals' autonomy in expressing themselves, associating, and moving freely, enabling them to lead meaningful lives. Most significantly, the right to life and personal liberty, as enshrined under Article 21, has been interpreted expansively by the Supreme Court to encompass the right to live with dignity, including personal autonomy, bodily integrity, and freedom from degrading treatment. Collectively, these constitutional provisions demonstrate that the protection and promotion of human dignity is a unifying principle underlying the entire framework of fundamental rights. I'll now refer to a series of judgments on various aspects of human dignity. The judicial recognition of the principle of human dignity in India began to crystallize in the late 1970s, largely in response to the widespread reports of inhuman and cruel treatment to the prisoners in the jails across the country. The courts observed that deprivation of liberty could not justify the infliction of humiliation, torture, or degrading treatment, and emphasized that even those in custody retain their fundamental human worth and rights. This period marked a significant shift in constitutional jurisprudence, where the judiciary began to interpret the right to life and personal liberty under Article 21, not merely as a procedural safeguard against arbitrary deprivation of freedom, but as a guarantee to live with dignity, respect, and human conditions, laying the groundwork for later expansive interpretations in areas such as prison reforms, rights of marginalized groups, and socio-economic entitlements. In Sunil Batra versus Delhi administration, a constitution bench of the Supreme Court took serious cognizance of the inhuman treatment of under trials, convicts, and individuals on death row. Justice Krishna Iyer emphasized that the human thread of jail jurisprudence demands that no prison authority is exempt from constitutional obligations, and that the forcible denial of fundamental rights constitutes an institutional outrage. The court condemned the use of iron fetters and held that practices such as solitary confinement and cellular segregation are both inhuman and irrational. In Sunil Batra 2 versus Delhi administration, the Supreme Court underscored that imprisonment does not strip an individual of their humanity. It famously observed that in the eyes of law, prisoners are persons and not animals, and affirmed that the judiciary has a duty to hold accountable and punish the divine guardians of the prison system where they go berserk and defile the dignity of the human inmate. Another judgment from 1980, Prem Shankar Shukla versus Delhi administration, centered around the constitutionality of handcuffing under trial prisoners. The court held that depriving a person of human dignity is not merely an act of causing physical discomfort, but an affront to their very humanity, striking at the core of Article 14, 19, and 21. The judgment emphasized that the guarantee of human dignity forms an integral part of our constitutional culture and is activated, and I quote, when we realize that to manacle man is more than to mortify him. It is to dehumanize him and therefore to violate his very personhood, too often using the mask of dangerousness and security, unquote. In Francis Corralin Mullin versus the Administrator, Union Territory of Delhi, the Supreme Court struck down a rule that restricted a detainee's right to consult a legal advisor of their choice, holding it unconstitutional under Article 14 and 21. The court emphasized that the right to live with dignity is an essential component of the right to life, and as such, a detainee is entitled to meet the family members, friends, and the legal advisors. These landmark judgments firmly establish that human dignity is a constitutional value that remains inviolable even within the confines of incarceration. Building on this foundation, the Supreme Court in the 21st century has continued to safeguard the rights of the prisoners, reinforcing their rights to human treatment and dignity are consistently applied even within the correctional institutions. The Supreme Court in Mehmood Naeem Azam versus the state of Chhattisgarh observed that a person in custody retains their basic human rights and inherent dignity, and the police officers are bound to refrain from inhuman treatment. In 2015, in Shabnam versus Union of India, the Supreme Court reaffirmed that human dignity must be preserved even in the case of a prisoner sentenced to death. The court held that from the confirmation of the death sentence by the highest court until its execution, the convict is entitled to be treated with full respect for human dignity, to the extent which is reasonable and permissible in law. The court explained the principle of human dignity in the following words, and I quote, human dignity is infringed if a person's life, physical or mental welfare is alarmed. It is in this sense torture, humiliation, forced labor, etc. all infringe on human dignity. It is in this context many rights of the accused derive from his dignity as a human being, unquote. The Supreme Court in the judgment of 2019, titled X versus State of Maharashtra, while holding that post-conviction severe mental illness will be a mitigating factor in committing his death sentence, emphasized that the right to dignity of an accused does not dry out with the judge's ink. Rather, it subsists well beyond the prison gates and operates until his last breath. More recently, in October 2024, referring to the principle of human dignity, the Supreme Court, in the case of Sukanya Shanta versus Union of India, struck down prison manuals which discriminated against individuals on the basis of their caste. The court held that such provisions perpetuate the idea that some individuals are inherently suited to the low status labor based solely on their birth, reinforcing deep-rooted caste inequalities. It was noticed that such provisions deprive prisoners from marginalized groups of a sense of dignity and the expectation that they should be treated equally. We also find that the principle of human dignity has played a crucial role in how the Supreme Court has derived unenumerated rights from the Constitution. Article 21, which guarantees the right to life and personal liberty, has been the primary foundation for recognizing such rights. As I stated, the court in Francis Corolle emphasized that the right to life is not confined to mere existence, but extends to living a life with dignity, thereby broadening the ambit. Another crucial judgment here is Mohini Jain versus the state of Karnataka, where the court declared the right to education as a fundamental right under Article 21. The court made it clear that education is not just a policy goal, but a constitutional necessity for a life of dignity. As the court observed, and I quote, "The dignity of a man is inviolable. It is the duty of the state to respect and protect the same. It is primarily the education which brings forth the dignity of a man. An individual cannot be assured of human dignity unless his personality is developed, and the only way to do that is to educate him." Education was highlighted as a facilitator for recognizing one's dignity. As we marched in the 21st century, the ambit and scope of human dignity was further expanded by the Supreme Court in M. Nagaraj versus Union of India, as the court held that it is the duty of the state not only to protect the human dignity, but to facilitate it by taking positive steps in that direction. In Sukanya Shanta in 2024, the court declared that Article 21 includes the right to overcome caste barriers as a part of the right to life of individuals from marginalized communities. This is to ensure that they can flourish in an environment of equality, respect, and dignity without being subjected to a caste-based discrimination which cripples their personal growth. Another important aspect of the discourse on human dignity is that it is intrinsically connected to an individual's autonomy and especially to make decisions about their own life. It encompasses the freedom to exercise choice, personal agency, and self-determination. The courts have consistently recognized that human dignity and personal autonomy are mutually reinforcing. A person cannot truly live with dignity if they are denied the ability to make choices regarding their body, actions, or life circumstances. The interconnection has been central to judicial reasoning in areas such as reproductive rights, privacy, and the right to refuse medical treatment, where the courts have emphasized that respect for autonomy is a fundamental component of the right to live with dignity under Article 21. In Sujita Srivastava versus Chandigarh administration, the court observed that a woman's right to make reproductive choices is an essential facet of personal liberty under Article 21 of the Constitution. It emphasized that reproductive autonomy encompasses both the decisions to procreate and the choice to refrain from procreation, and that the fundamental considerations are the protection of a woman's privacy, dignity, and bodily integrity. The Supreme Court in Singhvi versus State of Karnataka recognized that a forcible intrusion into a personal mental processes is also an affront on human dignity and liberty, often with grave and long-standing consequences. A strong emphasis on dignity is made in the 9-judge bench decision in 2017 in K.S. Puttaswamy versus Union of India. This judgment declared the right to privacy as a fundamental right, flowing through various provisions of Part 3 of the Constitution. It was held, dignity cannot exist without privacy. Both reside within the inalienable values of life, liberty, and freedom which the Constitution has guaranteed. Privacy straddles across the spectrum of fundamental rights and protects for the individual a zone of choice and a self-determination. Privacy was held to be the constitutional core of human dignity. It affirms that living with dignity is essential to realizing the liberties and freedoms that form the cornerstone of our Constitution. In 2018, the Common Cause versus Union of India, the court permitted passive euthanasia in cases of terminally ill persons. The court reiterated that the term life in Article 21 encompasses the right to live with human dignity, which also includes the right to die with dignity. As an intrinsic aspect of the right to live with dignity, this interpretation underscores that the right to dignified existence extends throughout the natural course of life, encompassing not only the quality of living, but also the manner and procedure of death. Beyond personal autonomy, other dimensions of human dignity, such as self-expression and the right to make decisions, reinforce the principle that it is ultimately the patient's choice to accept or refuse the medical treatment. Across these judgments, the judiciary has repeatedly affirmed that protection of autonomy is the core mechanism through which the Constitution safeguards human dignity, reinforcing the interdependence of these two fundamental principles. I'll now turn to how the court has acknowledged human dignity not only as an individual right, but also as a collective or group value, particularly in the context of marginalized and socially disadvantaged communities. The judiciary has recognized that structural inequalities, historic injustices, and systematic discriminations can undermine the dignity of entire social groups, and that protecting their dignity requires affirmative measures, safeguards, and equality-oriented interventions. Through its jurisprudence, the court has consistently emphasized that dignity encompasses social recognition, respect, and the opportunity for marginalized communities to participate fully and equally in society, extending beyond mere legal protection to address entrenched social hierarchies and exclusion. In People's Union for Democratic Rights versus the Union of India, the court examined the violation of labor laws during the construction of the Asian Games complex in New Delhi and emphasized that whenever construction work is undertaken, whether departmentally or through contractors, the government or any public authority must ensure strict compliance with labor laws. Authorities should not wait for the complaints from workers, but must conduct regular and surprise inspections to detect any violations. The court highlighted that Article 23 prohibits forced labor in any form as it violates human dignity and fundamental human values. It further held that even if remuneration is paid, labor performed under compulsion or without free consent constitute forced labor under Article 23. This judgment underscored that labor must be provided voluntarily without coercion or compulsion as a fundamental aspect of respecting the inherent dignity of the worker. Importantly, this decision set a precedent for a series of subsequent judgments that reinforce the principle of the dignity of the labor, emphasizing that all workers, regardless of their social or economic status, are entitled to fair treatment and safe working conditions. Later highlighting the need to protect the marginalized communities, such as scheduled castes and scheduled tribes, in Chameli Singh versus State of UP, the court reiterated that the right to live as a human being is not ensured by meeting only the animals' animal needs of the man, but it is secured only when he is assured of all the facilities to develop himself and is freed from restrictions which inhibit his growth. The court articulated that the true purpose of securing dignity of person and equality of status is to create supportive conditions which include the right to food, water, decent environment, education, medical care, and shelter. Such conditions will ensure that every citizen may grow and participate as an equal in our democracy. In a significant judgment in Visakhapatnam versus State of Rajasthan, the court laid down guidelines to prevent sexual harassment against women at the workplace. It was held that gender equality includes protection from sexual harassment and right to work with dignity, which is universally recognized basic human right. In Charu Khurana and others versus Union of India, the Supreme Court struck down the rules of Cine Costume Makeup Artists and Hairdressers Association that barred female makeup artists from becoming members. The court observed that equality cannot be realized without equal opportunities and noted that preventing a woman from entering a profession for which she is qualified not only denies her the opportunity to work, but also clips her capacity to earn her livelihood, which affects her individual dignity. The court remarked that all practices derogatory to the dignity of women are to be renounced. In Secretary, Ministry of Defense versus Babita Punia, a two-judge bench upheld the claims of women engaged in short service commissions in the army to seek parity with their male counterparts in obtaining permanent commissions. The court held to cast aspersion on their abilities on the ground of gender is an affront not only to their dignity as women, but to the dignity of the members of the Indian Army. Men and women who serve as equal citizens is a common mission. The court gave several directions to the Union government to grant permanent commission to women officers in the Army and consequential benefits. Subsequently, the women officers of the Army approached the Supreme Court in Lieutenant Colonel Nitisha versus Union of India to challenge the evaluation criteria applied by the Army to grant permanent commissions as unjust and arbitrary as the women officers who were in the age group of 40-50 years were being required to conform to the medical standards that a male officer would have to conform to at the age of 25 to 30 years. The court concluded that the process adopted by the Army to grant permanent commission to women officers failed to remedy the gender discrimination identified in Babita Punia. The evaluation procedure was found to constitute indirect and systematic discrimination, disproportionately affecting women. The court held that this discrimination inflicted both economic and psychological harm and constituted an affront to their dignity. The dignity of persons with disabilities has also been increasingly recognized by the courts as an essential facet of constitutional protection. Judicial pronouncements have emphasized that persons with disabilities are entitled to live with self-respect, dignity, autonomy and equality, and that society and the state have a duty to remove barriers, physical, social, and institutional, and hinder their full participation in public and private life. In Jija Ghosh versus Union of India, the Supreme Court awarded compensation to the petitioner to be paid by an airline which had deported her from the aircraft because of her disability. The court found that this incident was discriminatory against persons with disability. It was noted that rights of persons with disability are founded on the sound principles of human dignity, which is a constitutional value and a constitutional goal. The court recognized the principle of reasonable accommodation for persons with disability. In Vikas Kumar versus the Public Service Commission, the court held that the provisions of scribe is mandated by law to ensure that persons with disabilities can live a life of equality and dignity with their bodily and mental integrity respected by society. It observed that it was fundamentally wrong for the UPSC to restrict these facilities solely to persons with benchmark disabilities. The court emphasized that all necessary support and accommodations must be provided to enable persons with disabilities to participate on equal footings. More recently, in Amarjain versus Union of India, the court was hearing a petition filed seeking directions to various respondents to formulate appropriate rules and regulations for conducting digital KYC, e-KYC, video KYC process through alternative methods to ensure an inclusive and accessible process to all persons with disabilities. The court held that, and I quote, bridging the digital divide is no longer merely a matter of policy discretion, but has become a constitutional imperative to secure a life of dignity, autonomy, and equal participation in public life. The right to digital access, therefore, emerges as an intrinsic component to the right to life with liberty, necessitating that the state proactively designs and implements including digital ecosystems that serve not only the privileged, but also the marginalized, those who have been historically excluded, unquote. Overall, the Supreme Court has been consistent in evolving the human dignity jurisprudence. To give examples, I normally do not refer to my judgments, but I'll take liberty to refer to my two judgments. The first regarding directions in the matter of demolition of structures, where the court laid down certain guidelines to prevent illegal demolition of structures, including the homes of the accused persons. In doing so, the court also noticed having a house or a roof over one's head gives satisfaction to any person. It gives a sense of dignity and a sense of belonging. More recently, in T.N. Godavaram Thirumpala versus Union of India, while dealing with the issue of hand-pulling rickshaws in a town in Maharashtra, the court held that the persons towing handcart rickshaws in Matheran do so not of their own choice, but since they have no other source of livelihood. Permitting such an inhuman practice, which hits the concept of human dignity in a country like India, which is marching towards becoming a developed country from a developing country, belittles the constitutional promise of social and economic justice. The court directed the state, as its duty under the directive principles of the state policy, to ensure that social and economic justice is done to the citizens, should form a scheme for rehabilitation of these handcart rickshaw pullers so that they are not deprived of their livelihood, at the same time prohibiting the human practice of handcart rickshaws. Significantly, the Supreme Court had earlier highlighted the connection between the human dignity and the directive principles of state policy in the Bandhuva Mukti Morcha in 1984. Dealing with the issue of bonded labor, Justice P.N. Bhagwati, emphasizing that Article 21 guarantees the right to live with human dignity, free from exploitation, and the right draws its vitality from the directive principle of state policy, particularly Clause E and F of Article 39, as well as Article 41 and 42. He concluded that, at a minimum, human dignity entails safeguarding the health and strength of workers, ensuring protection for children against abuse, providing opportunities for growth under conditions of freedom and dignity, access to education, just and human working conditions, and maternity relief. I would not like to burden you with more judgments and would straight away come to my concluding remarks. I would say that the judiciary has emphasized human dignity as the soul of the Constitution. It has held human dignity to be a pervasive principle that underlines the very spirit and philosophy of the Constitution, shaping the core values articulated in the preamble: liberty, equality, fraternity, and justice. Across a wide array of judgments in the 20th and 21st century, the Supreme Court has consistently recognized that human dignity is both a substantive right and a normative lens through which all fundamental rights must be understood. It has been employed not only to safeguard a dignified existence for individual citizens, but also as a constitutional tool to expand, interpret, and harmonize rights, ensuring that the protection afforded by the Constitution is meaningful and comprehensive. In practice, this means that dignity serves as a guiding principle that connects rights, allowing the judiciary to develop a coherent and holistic framework for constitutional adjudication. Whether in the context of prisoners, workers, women, or persons with disabilities, human dignity transforms the understanding of autonomy, equality, and justice, ensuring that the law protects not only physical survival, but also the broader conditions necessary for a life of self-respect, freedom, and opportunity. By anchoring constitutional interpretation in dignity, the Supreme Court has ensured that the Constitution remains a living instrument capable of responding to evolving societal challenges while remaining faithful to the foundational values. I end my lecture by quoting from the privacy judgment, and I quote, to live with dignity. Dignity is the core which unites the fundamental rights, and because the fundamental rights seek to achieve for each individual the dignity of existence. I unquote. I thank the O.P. Jindal University and Dr. Singhvi for giving me an opportunity to address you on this occasion in memory of Dr. L.M. Singhvi. I once again pay my deep tribute to the enormous contribution of Dr. L.M. Singhvi. I am also thankful to all my brother colleagues and members of the bar who, in spite of tomorrow being a miscellaneous day, are present in large number. Thank you very much.
Thank you to the Chief Justice of India, Honorable Mr. Justice B.R. Gavai, for a stellar lecture. As a lifelong student of constitutional law, it was truly an educative experience to hear you speak about the foresightedness of the members of the Constitutional Assembly, the value of dignity in promoting democracy, the Supreme Court's evolving jurisprudence on dignity as a value, and the constitutional value at the interchange between dignity as a value as well as individual autonomy. On that note, I would now like to invite the Honorable Speaker of the Lok Sabha, Shri Om Birla, to kindly come forward to deliver the Chief Guest address for today. Welcome, sir.
डॉक्टर एल.एम. सिंघवी स्मृति व्याख्यान में आज हम सब डॉक्टर एल.एम. सिंघवी जी का जीवन, जिन्होंने एक राजनीतिक यात्रा के साथ एक राजनीतिक यात्रा, संविधान और कानून, साहित्यकार, कवि, ऐसा उत्कृष्ट उनका जीवन है कि वह हमें आज भी प्रेरणा देता है। उन्होंने जिस क्षेत्र के अंदर भी कार्य किया, चाहे एक राजनेता के रूप में, उस समय 1962-67 के अंदर राजस्थान का जोधपुर एक जीवंत शहर है, वहाँ पर निर्दलीय सांसद बने। कानून ज्ञाता के रूप में उनकी विद्वता, उनका ज्ञान केवल देश में नहीं दुनिया के कई संविधान बनाने में भी उनका योगदान रहा। उनकी यात्रा एक राजनयिक यात्रा के रूप में लंबे समय तक वो यूके में राजनयिक रहे और उस समय उन्होंने भारत के लोकतंत्र की यात्रा, भारत की संस्कृति, भारत की विविधता, भारत का व्यापार और भारत के लोग जो दुनिया में रहते थे उनको गरिमा देने के लिए, उनकी पहचान बनाने में भी उनका बहुत बड़ा योगदान रहा। इसलिए कई बार व्यक्ति ऐसा भी हो सकता है जिसका बहुआयामी व्यक्तित्व हो, और मुझे लगता है डॉक्टर एल.एम. सिंघवी का बहुआयामी व्यक्तित्व हम सबको प्रेरणा देता है नए कार्य करने की, नई विचारों की और अपने जीवन के अंदर देश को कुछ न कुछ कंट्रीब्यूशन करने की। यही इस व्याख्यान माला के अंदर हमें अनुभव प्राप्त हुआ। अभी माननीय उच्चतम न्यायालय के मुख्य न्यायाधीश, जिन्होंने समय समय पर इस देश के अंदर कानून के द्वारा मानव गरिमा के विषय पर अलग अलग जो निर्णय हुए, फैसले हुए, उनके बारे में बताया। और सही बात है, इस दुनिया के अंदर भारत लोकतांत्रिक एक ऐसा देश है जिसने हमेशा आज़ादी के बाद बंधुत्व, समानता पर विशेष रूप से ध्यान दिया। संविधान निर्माता बाबा साहब अम्बेडकर ने जो आज़ादी के बाद उस समय विचार दिया, जो दृष्टिकोण दिया, उन्होंने मानवता की संवेदना और समानता, बंधुत्व और सबको समान अधिकार, सबको न्याय, सबको व्यक्ति अधिकार, उस पर संविधान की मूल प्रस्तावना से लेकर संविधान की मूल धाराओं में भी विशेष रूप से मानव गरिमा के विषय के अंदर, उनके संविधान के अंदर जो अनुच्छेद है और संविधान सभा की डिबेट के अंदर भी हमारे संविधान निर्माताओं ने उस चर्चा, डिबेट के अंदर भी मानव गरिमा का विशेष ध्यान रखा। और आज हमें खुशी है कि इस 75 वर्ष की लोकतंत्र की यात्रा के अंदर समय समय सरकारों ने भी संसद के अंदर कानून पारित किए, मानव गरिमा के विषय पर, निजता पर विषय पर, स्वतंत्रता पर, समानता पर मुद्दों पर लंबी चर्चा हुई, डिबेट हुई। और आज हम 21वीं सदी से जब गुजर रहे हैं तो निश्चित रूप से मानव गरिमा के विषय पर समय समय, चाहे कानून के फैसले हो, चाहे सरकार के फैसले हो, आज सवाल ये है कि इन सारी संस्थाओं के माध्यम से हम कैसे लोगों को त्वरित न्याय दिलाएं, कैसे इतने वर्षों बाद भी जो कुछ भी कानूनी या कार्यपालिकाओं की अड़चन है उनको कैसे दूर करें ताकि एक व्यक्ति को मानव गरिमा से तुरंत न्याय मिल सके, चाहे कार्यपालिका के अंदर हो, चाहे शासन हो, चाहे न्यायपालिका के अंदर हो। इस पर एक बड़ी डिबेट, चर्चा का अवसर है और मुझे आशा है आप सब लोग अपने अपने क्षेत्र में बहुत विद्वान हैं, जिन्होंने समय समय पर ऐसे विषयों पर अपने विचारों को व्यक्त किया है, अपने ज्ञान, अपनी विद्वताओं को लिखा है। आज हमें सभी संस्थाओं, चाहे लोकतंत्र की संस्था संसद हो, चाहे न्यायपालिका हो, चाहे कार्यपालिका हो, शासन हो, हमारा एक ही प्रयास होना चाहिए। इस 75 वर्ष की यात्रा में बहुत परिवर्तन हुआ है। हमने अंग्रेजों के बने कानूनों को परिवर्तन करने का लगातार प्रयास किया है। आज मुझे खुशी है कि हमने अंग्रेजों के उन कानूनों को भारत के लोकतंत्री व्यवस्थाओं के अनुसार हमने उन कानूनों में परिवर्तन करने का काम किया है। लेकिन इस 75 वर्ष की यात्रा के अंदर अभी भी अगर हम मानव गरिमा की बात कर रहे हैं तो संविधान के अंदर सब धाराएं देने के बाद भी, क्योंकि आज भी भारत का संविधान हमारा कानूनी दस्तावेज नहीं है, हमारा जीवंत वो दस्तावेज है जो हमेशा हमें मार्गदर्शन का काम करता है। मुझे आशा है कि मैं डॉक्टर अभिषेक मनु सिंघवी जी को धन्यवाद देता हूं, जिन्होंने इस चर्चा को आगे बढ़ाया है। और ये चर्चा अलग अलग क्षेत्रों के अंदर आप सभी विद्वानों के ज्ञान से, आप सबकी विद्वानों के लेखन से और समय समय पर, चाहे जुडिशरी हो, चाहे कार्यपालिका हो, चाहे लोकतांत्रिक हो, हर संस्थाओं को आपके और सुझाव मिलेंगे ताकि आम व्यक्ति को त्वरित गति से हर संस्थाओं के अंदर न्याय मिले, उसके मानव अधिकारों की सुरक्षा हो, और जो उसको पेजत किया अभी भी जो कठिनाइयाँ, चुनौतियाँ उसके जीवन के अंदर अभी भी है, उन सारी चुनौतियों को कैसे समाधान हो सकता है। मुझे लगता है कि संविधान में जो बनाई तीनों स्तंभ हैं, कार्यपालिका, न्यायपालिका, विधायिका, वह अपने आप में सबको व्यापक अधिकार है और इन सारी संस्थाओं के अंदर आज भी व्यापक परिवर्तन करने की आवश्यकता है और इसके लिए आपके अमूल्य सुझाव आएंगे। मैं पुनः डॉक्टर अभिषेक मनु सिंघवी जी को धन्यवाद देता हूं और विशेष रूप से जस्टिस B.R. गवई जी ने, जिन्होंने पूरी अभी तक इस विषय पर जब जो फैसले हुए, चाहे हाई कोर्ट में हुए, चाहे सुप्रीम कोर्ट में हुए, उन सारे फैसलों को आपके सामने रखा है। निश्चित रूप से आज की ये व्याख्यानमाला हम सबको नया मार्गदर्शन देगी, नए विचार को प्रेरित करेगी और एल.एम. सिंघवी जी के जीवन, उनके उत्कृष्ट अद्भुत जीवन को से हम सबको प्रेरणा मिलेगी। आप सभी को बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद।
थैंक यू टू द ऑनरेबल स्पीकर ऑफ द लोक सभा श्री ओम बिरला। हम सभी की तरफ से आपको तहे दिल से शुक्रिया। आपका योगदान भारतीय समाज में हमेशा ही अमूल्य रहेगा। ऑन दैट नोट, I would like to now invite Advocate Supreme Court of India, Mr. Avishkar Singhvi, to kindly come forward to deliver the vote of thanks for today's memorial lecture.
Respected Chief Justice of India, Mr. Justice B.R. Gavai, respected Honorable Speaker of the Lok Sabha, Shri Honorable Om Birla ji, Dr. Abhishek Singhvi, Vice Chancellor Raj Kumar ji, Honorable respected judges of the Supreme Court, respected judges of the Delhi High Court, members of Parliament, senior advocates, learned colleagues, friends, ladies and gentlemen, it is my profound honor to offer this vote of thanks at the culmination of the 11th Dr. L.M. Singhvi Memorial Lecture, an occasion that is in truth much larger than any single event, with continuing scholarships, citations, seminars, and recognitions across the year. Tonight, we do not merely remember a monumental man, but we engage in an ideal, a vision of law, of democracy, and of human dignity. that continues to illuminate our lives. First, our deepest gratitude to the Honorable Chief Justice B.R. Gavai, whose keynote address tonight was the fine blend of a masterclass in constitutional wisdom with living affirmation of the theme we have gathered to explore today, human dignity as the soul of the Constitution. Your reflections reminded us that courts do not merely interpret law, they safeguard the very essence of our collective humanity. You have meticulously recollected various decisions underlined and underpinning human dignity. We are grateful for the clarity, the compassion, the depth with which you have connected jurisprudence to the lived dignity of every citizen. You have rendered justice faithfully and fearlessly, with grace, and if I may say, sometimes with great humor in the courtrooms. You continue to inspire millions of legal professionals with values that they should live by and protect, dignity and justice above all. To the Honorable Speaker, Shri Om Birla ji, our chief guest, we owe a special word of thanks to you. You made time to specially fly back from Kota for this function. In your stewardship of the Lok Sabha, you embody a rare combination of firmness, calmness, ensuring that debates, even when spirited, remain anchored in civility and constitutional ethos. Your words tonight highlighted that dignity is not a privilege of a few, it is the responsibility of all those who govern, legislate, and lead. Your tribute to Dr. L.M. Singhvi as a parliamentarian, a statesman, and a voice of Indian civilization was evocative. Your words have given a new life to his memory. His parliamentary contributions and his passion for democracy were enriched by the very ideals that you drive every day. It is often that a lecture series, I first want to say a few words about my father as well. My gratitude to my father, Dr. Abhishek Singhvi, who has always welcomed us to this annual conversation and guided it with magnanimity, wit, and balance. It can sometimes be dangerous to go at the pace at which he goes, especially for health reasons. It can also be an enriching one at the same time. His capacity to work hard and fulfill his dream and the vision carried by my grandfather is immaculate. His reflections reminded us that remembering Dr. L.M. Singhvi is not an act of nostalgia, it is an exercise in moral imagination. And it's thinking about the kind of society that we wish to build, one in which law, life, principle, practice, and dignity walk hand in hand. My heartful gratitude to one of the most remarkable vice-chancellors of India, Professor Rajkumar, a perennial dynamo of energy and innovation in the education sector, who is revolutionizing the way in which we impart education. Having known him personally for some time now, I can not only vouch for his unparalleled energy levels, but also his unwavering determination to accomplish his dream and vision for the students of this country that come from all parts of this great nation. To the members of the bar, judiciary, political leaders, academics, diplomats, friends, and all attendees, your presence here is in itself is a testament to the respect and affection that my grandfather inspired across generations and professions. You have given your attention, your intellect, your conscience to this dialogue. For that, we are profoundly thankful. To all those who have joined us today, your presence here is deeply appreciated. It reflects the wide-ranging legacy of a man who was truly multifaceted. Let us acknowledge those whose names do not appear in speeches, but whose efforts make such events possible: the organizers, the volunteers, the secretarial staff, and every hand who has ensured that tonight unfolded with seamless ease. In their labor, too, we witness the quiet, unheralded embodiment of the theme we honor. It is often said that a lecture series is only as meaningful as the dialogue it inspires between the past and the present. In this, we are specially blessed that Dr. L.M. Singhvi dedicated his life to law, justice, public service, and to diplomacy, and all with a conscience. He believed that the Constitution is a living promise that every human being in every walk of life deserves respect, recognition. He was a polymath whose life was a confluence of intellectual brilliance, moral conviction, and tireless public service. Tonight's discussions, the depths of insight shared, and the gracious engagement of our guests have carried forward that promise. May the lessons of this evening guide us in our courts, our legislature, and in our daily lives to remember that every law is meaningless without dignity, every institution hollow without respect, and every society incomplete without compassion. As we carry forward his memory, let us carry forward his mission to think deeply, to act justly, and to speak wisely and serve selflessly. May this annual lecture serve as a living tribute, inspiring future generations to engage with ideas and ideals that build a more just and humane world built on dignity and empowerment. With the gratitude in my heart and humility in my voice, I thank you all once again. Jai Hind. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. I would now like to invite Ms. Abhilasha Singhvi to kindly present a memento to our chief guest, the Honorable Speaker of the Lok Sabha, Shri Om Birla, as a mark of our respect and gratitude.